I'll call the meeting to order. It's agenda date, time, and location are properly announced. And we'll start off with the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of November 21st, 2022, and the special meeting of December 12th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve? Katie, is there a second?
Second.
Amy? Any corrections, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have payment of the bills. Is there a motion to approve the amount of $948,064.14 for the month of November?
So moved.
Matt, is there a second?
I second.
Rainey? Any questions or discussion?
I did have some questions that I was able to answer by email, so if there's no further questions, we might be good, or were there any other? Good.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the cash summary?
I didn't have any questions on this, no, everything looks good.
Notifications on donations.
Yes, would like to thank Mrs. Reed for her work in getting another Donors Choose project for a drying rack for her classroom.
And I don't have any paperwork or comments from the public, so we're good to go there. Building reports.
All right, just, more of an FYI. Standards where we're starting to ask not only what students and why they need to know, but being able to ask the students those questions. So putting those learning targets up and moving into what instructions. We have started again our hard work done well, feeling good, recognition ball, the entryway to a lot of hands with that walking out there.
This time they lined it up in the hallway and going around the square. It really was a neat event. So looking forward to more that they're going to be doing when we come back from the holidays. And then high school, middle school, this past Wednesday, we had a joint professional growth learning time, and it was very successful. Great conversations that were going on, really focusing on our standards work and evidence-based grading.
I welcome all of you to come take a walk around the hallway. So we've got lots of fun. So part of us being jolly for the holidays, we have additional rewards going out to students every day. We've got specific and kids are very excited about the additional prizes. They're excited about the partnership with the Jolly Good. We will strengthen off the team anytime soon.
So we did high school, middle school, candy grant sale last couple of weeks, wildly successful. And both levels were doing it, so that way they could donate the money for families that recently one lost him in a fire and another one who lost her father. So we were able to raise money to support both those
Can I ask the obvious question? What is a candy grab? I don't know.
Has a little message on it.
For a large, candy. And so for $1, you can write a positive message to someone in the school, or even we had a lot of them writing messages for their parents and their family members. And so the middle school is being delivered tomorrow, and Lakeville is already.
Our PTO in conjunction with the. That's Friday night. And wonderful things we worked on, money raised. Money that was raised is going to go to our families who are support Christmas. Our holiday Christmas concerts and programs are in full swing. Last week, Thursday was evening performance for the elementary program. And last but not least on my list, we just wrapped up a couple of non-perishable drives. And those items with the help of middle school student council members were packed up and loaded and brought to the interview. We had a lot of items of items. We had a load of us with that, so they really did a nice job.
And then last but not least, an acknowledgement to, Mr. Ibsen and the East 14, they were state runners up this last, weekend. So well done.
Any questions?
Hi, can you explain the STEM nights a little more? Like who's invited, like, and what are they actually doing?
So they invite elementary and middle school, and it's students in third grade. Yeah, third grade. And, it's, students and families, they're welcome to come. They do different types of things on the different nights. So one of the nights, from the last board meeting, I talked about the stargazing event, that they had done. And I was just, trying to jog my memory. I was asking Sandy, I was like, I was trying to remember exactly all they did this last time because they had computers lined up and they were doing, different like coding type things on the computer this last time. So they're each time they're doing it a little bit different. I know they're doing that right now for a quarter, hour of hope, that they've been working on, so that'll be leading into the next.
All right, and board committee reports at administrative and support staff meeting tonight. With,
Who's the chair of that?
I am. We discussed, administrative contract,
Maybe action.
action later in the year.
okay. And referendum.
Just a couple real quick topics. As we know, last week we had our special meeting to talk about the financing. I do have in front of you, we're gonna talk a little bit about our options, on how we want to move forward with that, so I can get that back to Kevin. And our core planning meeting, we have our first one on Wednesday, so Chuck and Reedy, you should have gotten your invites. And this first one is gonna be here. There is a virtual option if you need, but I think the, most of the group will be in, district conference. So with that, you're gonna see our next item is about the district calendar. One of the things that, just to kind of, I have it up there right now. The state of Wisconsin requires that schools start, no sooner than September 1st unless under some sort of special resolution. And if you look at the calendar next year, September 1st is a Friday. So, that is not the most ideal day to start a school day, starting on a Friday. Does not sound like fun. A one-day school week is not, anything we'd ever even want to try to accomplish. But this last year, September 1st fell on a Thursday, so we had a 2-day week. And with all the things that we're doing in our buildings around culture, about teaching the behaviors we want to see, I personally felt like, and been doing this a bunch of years, it was one of the best kickoffs to the school year. We did our in-service the week before, staff that needed to had, almost a week to kind of get their things settled, get ready. School was Thursday and Friday. We had Labor Day weekend. It came in on Tuesday and really started learning. And I feel like it set the stage for the year. And as we look at this, as we look at next year, we have two options. Either we write a resolution and start before September 1st, which what you have in front of us right here is August 31st, or we have our first day of school on September 5th. September 5th would push us, if you look at the end, would push us almost into June, at least at the end of May. And we know by May 2024 is when we want to have construction going and all those other things. So what you have in front of you is the calendar for next year with consideration of starting on August 31st, having that same great start to the school year as we had this year, and being done by May 24th, so kids are out of here and construction can commence. So it's an extra step, never done this before with DPI. Usually the calendar is something that administrators, we give to you, you approve, we go forward. We're taking the extra step to start that day earlier for really those two reasons. This isn't something I think we're saying we want to do regularly. It just really kind of works out in our favor with all the things that are happening right now. So we will have a resolution a little bit later, but I just wanted to kind of share that. And then let's talk a little bit about financing. So the sheets that you have from Baird here, the top one, and the place we really want to look here is on the very right-hand column. At the top, it says 273, and then it goes 299, and then 290, 290, 290, 290, 288. So if you compare that to the sheet underneath it, you can see that one goes from 299 down to 290. The other one goes from 299 down to 273. Those numbers that we're talking about there are the debt portion of our mill rate. And after some conversations that we had on Monday, we asked Kevin to come back and give us two different options on how the funding would happen. And one of the things you can see, these are two options. And he can do it either way. I think that the first one he presented was done purposefully. When you have a bond the size of this one, nearly 30 million, the more you pay earlier, the less interest you pay, the sooner it gets paid off. And it does give you options later on when maybe unforeseen things happen. I don't see us going to another referendum in 5 years. That's not anything I don't think anyone would have an appetite to, but if something happens, we would have some room there to do that. So I wanted to take a minute to have a discussion and see, is that second option something we should really explore? It's the difference of 17 cents on the mill rate. 17 cents would be 17 cents per thousand. So $100,000 home would be $17. $300,000 home would be $51. So, thoughts on that? Did I explain it? No.
So would one keep the mill rate the same and the other one would make it go down?
So the second one would give a reduction. So the second one would give a $17 for $100,000 home would have our taxes reduced by an extra $17 for next year. But would also, for that $17, the debt would be spread out over more years, so we'd be paying more interest.
So looking at the combined cost for the second one, looks like we're paying just about $1,000, if I'm looking at right, or I said 100,000 difference. From 52,000, I'm sorry, it's 52,607,000 down to, or up to 53,176,000 by going the second one.
Yeah, yep. So that change would be right right around $500,000, $570,000.
I guess I like the idea of, I guess probably going with the flat mill rate for the first 4 years. Saving that money in the first proposal. That's my initial thought.
And
Can you explain that? I'm sorry, Mike, can you explain I'm trying to catch the highlighted, like, the pale box?
yeah. So what that pale box is the actual levy of the debt that we would be paying off that year from tax.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, so that piece shows where, you know, if we get down to 2042, we will be paying $2.4 million on the second option, where in the first option, we'd be paying 2.3 million out of our tax levy for our debt services. Okay?
Katie, you had a question.
Well, yeah, just sort of a statement, like, I mean, it feels like when you're making your own budgeting decisions at home, like, it's coming later, right? Like, I don't know, so like. Also, like, but if it's 7 or 8 years out, they become, that this one is a lower mill rate, the first one, right? So we're talking about 7 years, let's pay a little bit more, pay less overall, pay less.
Is that increasing the mill rate and increasing taxes?
Well, that's where, actually, the way the model is set right now, I'll make sure I'm saying this right. So, one of the other pieces that's working in conjunction with this is the value of our property is going up 2% every year too. So there's properties being built, there's new things going up. So the piece with this is projecting just a 2% increase in the number of houses being built and all that other good stuff. So we could actually, at a 2%, this last year was 10%. But that also was a big valuation difference in the housing. So some of these could still go down if the number of houses built in our community is over 2%, which it has been for the last 4 years. It would reduce this also. So you have to look at the total valuation of our community along with this. And all they did right now is we went very, very conservative, that after this year, it's a 2% increase every year for the next 20 years.
That's our guess,
That's our guess. Yes.
because we have no control over any of that. So it just depends on what the value,
Right.
whoever says the value's what. So we're not raising taxes,
No,
because we don't.
that's not our job.
And the mill rate is like 914 or something, right? So there's tons of other stuff that goes in there, so this is a portion of it that we keep at the 914, that's kind of the.
So the goal is to keep it at 914. That was, the zero tax rate impact. That's the goal we are going to shoot for going out. And really when we said it was at 924 and we went from 924 down to 914. So we're 10 cents under what our promise was. When you look at that.
It's all muddied by this revaluation.
Yes.
Mm.
And I
yes.
heard it at home.
I'm sure. I'm
The other
sure.
night.
Yes, I'm sure.
Several of us heard it,
I just heard it in my house though, so.
we heard it in phone calls.
And that's why this option's out there.
And we have to be mindful that that doesn't continue to happen every year, because I don't want to try to explain every year
That's all.
that big jump.
Anybody's.
Even though it's not in our control, maybe it's still something we have to try to respond to.
And the piece that and Patty's not here, she has, her grandson has a concert tonight. The last few years, we've seen valuations by like 5, 6, 7%. And it has been truly on new houses and new pieces coming in. So when we seen that 10% valuation going up, and we see new houses in our community, we got to see a lot of this stuff. The surprising piece is it came across as a 14% increase on a lot of our families' taxes. So though it's part of the guessing game with this piece, where the last few years we haven't seen it, and this year it kind of landed on those houses. So
Is there just should we be, I can't say proactive anymore because everybody's seen their tax bills, but can the sounder help us explain this, write something to help? I attempted to tell Todd, but
right.
we don't communicate well anyway. Yeah, so.
Amy, can you give him a call?
I have had a couple of conversations, and through those conversations, they have been productive. And I would say, if we do have phone calls, please send them to me. I'm more than happy to share and be 100% open with, this is where we're at, this is what we know, this is what we did, this is what we have control over, this is what we don't have control over. Honestly, this is so convoluted, it's best to just do it conversation by conversation, and I'm willing to sit down and talk to anyone. Okay, so some direction. Are we okay with the first way? Do we want to look at the second one? Some thoughts? This isn't approval, I just, some direction, so Kevin has it.
I agree with option one.
One. Anybody for two?
Okay.
One with
There it
her.
is, there we go. And in the end, we went with that because it saves $500,000 in the end, right?
Right.
So, more than $500,000 at the end. And it's something this board has always done, is how can we get the biggest bang for our buck? And that's, we're sticking to that. So, good, thank you.
Okay.
So,
then that brings us into the resolution to start on August 31st.
yes.
Is there a motion to approve that? Matt, is there a second?
Second.
Chuck, any further questions or discussion on that?
I guess I'll just say, I do have different special ed class here, but some of it, right? So the years that school didn't start until after the fair, it was a lot easier for me. But I talked to my commander today, but so there's tons of kids that are going to come fair. This school certainly, the teachers have always done to work around it, we came and done our lockers and stuff on Wednesday. Just kind of a bummer when they're missing, just those first 2 days to get things started well. It's a bummer. So I'm kind of not thrilled about the idea, but I kind of think
It's a one-time deal, correct? I mean, we're not gonna make this happen.
This resolution wouldn't be a habit, but we have started before Labor Day every year since I've been here. So,
it depends on how, right? So
Yeah.
if it's the first is Thursday or Wednesday, that way,
Right.
right, the Labor Day, the latest Labor Day is Sunday.
I would say that would be a big concern from, knowing that there's quite a few kids in the fair as well. But if you go later, then you're going after Memorial Day, which, is a big issue too.
it's if I've learned one thing about calendar, and, we have school on Friday, which is the day before Christmas Eve, and because of travel and everything else, there's been some, conversation about how could we do that? And, it's, well, if we don't do this, then we're coming back the Monday and Tuesday after Memorial Day. Not, coming back for 2 days after a 3-day weekend doesn't make sense for kids, and the same thing here, if we were to move this and say, let's start September 5th, that means we have to come back the Tuesday and Wednesday after Memorial Day. To me, that doesn't make educational sense. So then we might as well add a couple more days and then go to school at least 3 or 4 days after Memorial Day. Now we're going to school till June, and it pushes back some of the summer school and some of the things that we've said to our parents about getting done early, but making sure your kiddos come to at least one session of summer school. So there's positive and negatives to all. and this is one of those things, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I do think with all things considered, we did talk about the county fair, Sheboygan County Fair today in our admin meeting. And in the conversations, we have more kids probably do the Ozaki County Fair than Sheboygan County Fair, although we have some do Sheboygan County Fair. I think we find that more of them are at Ozaki, which is 2 weeks before, I don't even know.
End of July.
End of July, so. There's probably a bunch that does both, but Ozaki's kind of a, so yeah.
Do you think the construction is gonna cause this to be another, like, next following year to be, needing to change the schedule as well? Or-
I meant to look at when September starts the following year. And that one, September 2nd is Labor Day. It looks like 2024. So we would be starting September 3rd, right? So that becomes, actually, we restarted, so we'd be starting the 3rd of September, which would be. But it's not like starting the 3rd is better than starting the 6th or the 7th. Comes down to a couple days.
There's no way to do it like pulling out some of the service and like. There's no way you can with it.
I mean, do we know how many kids we're talking about? We're talking about 10 kids, we're talking about 110.
We have some,
The Sheboygan.
A lot more than that one.
I remember when I could run 4-H too, it was like sometimes you hit it before, and it was really nice if you started school after. I appreciate that. But you got by when you had a couple days before.
Did back here for this one, we got
One of the things we'll do before the next calendar, I'll put a survey out there when, as we get closer, and ask families, would you prefer to start after Labor Day or be done before Memorial Day? I'm pretty sure I know what that answer would be. So, but I am more than happy to put that survey out so then we can make this decision on data before we have the next calendar.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Yes, we do. Okay, any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. A resolution to join the Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative.
I can't remember the last time we did a resolution, and we have 3 of them today.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the time of resolution. Some of it is, but WISC here is a group that's gonna help us invest. December 27th is when our bond will be sold, and a vast majority of it will not need to be, we won't have to start paying until the end of 2023, in 2024. So this is going to be the group that's going to help us invest it.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Chris, is there a second? Amy? Any questions or discussion?
Just, can you tell us a little bit more about this Wisconsin Investment Cities Cooperative?
Yep, so Patty and I vetted, you can't just invest funds from bonds and leave it in there just because we have a situation here where what we are borrowing is less than what our interest rates will be. So we will be making money on our, over the next 18 months to 2 years. So, when there's very strict guidelines when we have that, and there's 2 companies in Wisconsin that does it. One is a for-profit company, and this is a not-for-profit that has been doing it for 30 years. And we had to do the vetting ourselves to figure it out, but it was pretty obvious once we did the vetting, like the cost of this is nothing. They do this, they get a small percentage of what it is, smaller than the for-profit company. And these guys have a model that are fantastic. So, it's really helping us make sure we do that. They also do all the checking. So, when it comes to paying contractors. I don't know if you remember, last year, year before, there was a referendum project that accidentally paid some scammer $200,000. We don't have to write any checks, it all comes through this, they do it, it's all insured, so there's a couple of really nice things with going this way. So, yeah, it was a no-brainer after spending a couple hours and seeing things all up and stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a request for New York trip for drama students. That is supported by administration. It's been a while since they've been, hasn't it? Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Is that Rini? Second? Katie? Any questions or discussion?
Well, how many kids are we talking?
You know how many kids are going on this trip, Susan? How many kids are going on this trip?
They're driving on the bus for the board?
If you want to be on the bus for 15 hours, we'll make room for you. That's fine. Yeah. You know, just meet you there, yeah.
4, 5,
It's like over spring break or
Five
something,
and
spring break or. Oh, well, I mean, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Brave.
Oh, man, that's a long ride. Will we get them all in one bus or what?
That would be one bus.
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we have notification of just technical corrections with some of the policies. Nothing exciting, so we don't need to take any action on those. And then we have a change to a co-assistant high school wrestling. We're changing to Helton Vandenbush.
Nice to have him back to help.
Yeah. Then the administrative contract extensions that the committee met tonight. Any
Yeah, so this is just a promise between the district and the administrators that, hey, you're doing a great job, keep going, and here's the contract. It's nothing about finances, salaries, anything else, but there'll be a contract given for the 24-25 school.
Great. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Chuck, is there a second? I second. Reading, any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have to designate our official depository. And is there a motion to, we're continuing? This is a continuation of Collins State Bank of Random Lake and Commerce State Bank of West Bend.
Which is now called Summit.
The Collins, is that what you're
So
saying?
Commerce is now called Summit Credit Union.
Oh, okay. Summit, all right. Is there a motion?
So move.
Chuck, is there a second? Matt, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have another resolution
Yes, three for three.
for, with Keel.
Yes, so Kiel has a unique virtual option where we keep the enrollment of the student and then we just share the cost for that student and what we get for the per pupil allocation. Very different than when most students go to a virtual school, they just enroll in that. So we have an individual student that has some very individual needs, and this seemed like a really good way to navigate this. So we are going to go forward with this, and it will be something that, as we have students that have some different opportunities and needs, we have this as an option now with the district.
Is there a motion to resolve to do this?
Two resolutes, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
Katie, is there a second? Alrighty,
So is this something where they do all this like homeland, there was something in there, I think, with providing spaces, and providing support, but like that.
the agreement with Keel is there. Are we providing space for our student? What is that going to look like, this virtual option? Are they working from home?
They're working.
Pretty much, that's for just one student. How long has Steel had this program in effect? How
They-
long?
They've been doing this for 3-4 years. Yeah, it's, so I would consider Brad, just almost a friend. We've been doing this together for so long. And there's individuals out there that are trying to do things to help other public schools, and there's others that compete. This is something that helps us all be better. So we haven't had a need for this, so we haven't, but when this came up, this was better than saying, hey, for this situation, why don't you go to Northern Ozaki, why don't you go here? And this is actually, you're still part of us, we're just providing it.
Is this something that senior, is this something we do now next year?
We'll kind of see how the situation evolves itself and move forward.
So you get to count the student in your.
So it's really ours, they're helping us.
Do we have any involvement, or is this person 100%?
100% virtually taught.
This is our only virtual student? We don't have any other virtual options.
What's the catch? How do we get to count them? They get to.
Because we just split they know what the cost, educating a student virtually is much less expensive than face-to-face. So they're saying, hey, here you go, we'll split the cost. You keep this, and we'll get the other half. Open enrollment it's less than open enrollment, because in a lot of districts, open enrollment is still only a fraction of what you get. It's kind of I would say this is very similar, like when I go to, when I helped, we helped New Holstein go and transition to their own transportation. It's helping other schools be stronger, and kind of that piece where public schools, I think we need to help each other get better. And this is, I really think, a model that they can do. It's still income for them. They kept some of their teachers that they wouldn't have been able to keep now in a virtual option to do this. So it's one of those win-win type situations. So,
Did I read it was about $4,700?
which is in our per pupil allocation is 10,000. So
And you can't, like, every school would be able to do something, right? So that you would be able to provide.
we have Katie and Chris first and second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries. And WSB resolution. This is the first time we're really seeing one, right? Gotcha. Thank you. Any thoughts on those?
Well, I think it was the last one, I'm trying to find it, that I don't support on what they're trying to, let me find it. It has to do with their firearms policy. And it changed to that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up.
only grade 13.
Maybe it's a diamond screen.
Oh.
She's got it.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. I mean, I guess I just wanted to make sure I was reading it right, that it sounded like if the state wanted to make a change and allow concealed carry holders to carry within a school, that this would stop that from happening. Did you read that the same way?
And have to stick with locals, but they get out. If the local government copies come out.
Okay, that was my understanding as well. It kind of takes, like as a school board, we could make a decision, or our local government can make a decision. This is kind of taking that away from the local government. From us, it's taking that.
Adding it to the local government, adding the local government to the state.
So in other words, like if the sheriff would decide he'd allow CCW resident or carrying people in the school, that would be allowed.
No, but the opposite, I think. If the sheriff would decide that we can't, we don't have the ability.
Well, that's what, if you read the rationale, that's what it says. That WASB is trying to limit everything, no matter how, allowing it, to not allow any kind of expansion of period.
I just don't think they should have the authority to make that decision. So that was the one that I just wasn't in support of.
I agree. I will support that.
You're the delegate, right?
Does that mean you're going to vote it down?
No, I think
Sorry,
that-
got it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So this is proposed legislation. It has.
This isn't even legislation. This is, so we're part of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. And each year they come up with a group of things they support to try to gain,
That they lobby.
legislation, and they lobby for it. So, like if you, Brian Sevener and I went to a couple of these, and it's sometimes it's just an experiment in foolishness, because it's big schools and little schools and nobody can agree. I struggle with this because I don't feel like there's a lot of impact in schools on this. They're trying to show we pay WASB a nice chunk for all the support they do, and this is what they're trying to move forward. But when it comes down to it, it's hard to support what big schools and little schools want, because geographically, politically, we're very different. And this is where you're seeing something come from bigger schools that may not be supported by other schools. So yeah, it's if you haven't been there, you should give it a try. Matt can't be there, so if somebody wants to go vote, because usually we just say vote your conscience. So if you want to go and vote and say yes to no, no for that, I think everyone would support. I don't want to speak for the board, but that's how we have done it in the past.
Yeah, that's all I've done.
Chuck, you've been to some of these. Have we gone to one or not?
No, we didn't quite make it there.
Yeah, that's right. COVID, no, we're not COVID, yeah.
But
I'm not a big fan. It is a cluster like no other cluster.
it is.
It's frustrating. It gives me anxiety because I've watched so many people do nothing for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and all it is talk, because there's a few in here that I didn't really agree with, but I'm not actually sure it's what the time.
Right. Because when you go down there, they talk all about it again. And then it's whatever that group that listens to that votes. You know, so it's just whatever we say here really,
Right,
Irrelevant.
well, and
yes,
so
irrelevant
some things,
things.
like the one that had the fort in it,
oh, yeah.
like lowering the bar so we can get more teachers doesn't feel like the right thing to do, but like, even if something like that got schools, like, we would have to hire teachers that could.
And the fourth piece is, we're missing out on some really good educators because of one test that I would say has not shown any reliability to protect the efficiency of a teacher. So, there's legislation that was made with really good intentions that has turned out to not be very good. And that's one of them. So it's not really lowering the bar on teaching. It's, can we look at multiple assessments on, where somebody can be good instead of one reading test that. Some people have test anxiety, you know, you have very smart people who have test anxiety, they can never pass that. So let's find more meaningful measures. So those are some of the things, but everybody looks at it differently. Somebody else can look at it, we're lowering the bar, others can be like, well, we're finding new pathways, so that's exactly. So this is a microcosm of what that 3-hour meeting is.
So, and this is not related to PPI though, right? Like,
No.
WIC cover the books with PPI, because do something.
Sometimes against, I mean, honestly, this is,
Which is fine.
So, Nick can't make it. Chuck is, who was the backup? Chris? So if, somebody else wants to go,
Is it too late to get your name up that, or? I'm not saying I do, I'm just wondering, what's the deadline by when you have to make notification?
Still register with Mr. Earl, but
It's possible tomorrow?
and I don't know if you have to register if
For
you're just
just
going
going to
to that. I don't know if you have to pay for the,
well, I usually go listen to that. If someone really wants to go.
okay.
if you haven't experienced it,
I think it is a good experience, one time. I've done it a few.
yeah. And you're not exactly jumping over the table to volunteer this time, are you?
Okay, so, if you do go, we
Let
just
us know.
ask that you, vote your conscience and, consider your other board members, so. There you go. So that takes us to informational items.
Okay.
No.
Nope. So December 23rd is the deadline for non-candidacy. Make sure we get our paperwork done. Declaration of candidacy is January 3rd, so the Tuesday after we get back. There was no legislative breakfast today, so we can cross that off. I did want to thank Career Foods and Jolly Good for Be Jolly Good for the holidays. Like you heard from Sandy and Susan, we have a couple prizes every day that students are earning and getting Ram Bucks for to just try to keep the holiday spirit and reward good behavior. And on Thursday, we're picking up, 750 cans of soda and giving them out to the kiddos at 3:10, not a minute before. Sorry to our bus drivers.
I was gonna say, let's put
We do ask them not to drink it on the bus, but, sometimes we don't. And it's Christmas time, so we'll see you once. A couple of things. January, if you remember, we switched our board meeting to the 23rd of January. And I did want to just kind of say to the group here, if you haven't noticed, it's on the news. Friday does not look like a very nice day, although we're going to have a very white Christmas. Just as a warning, if it continues to look as no-brainer of a school day, snow day as it does right now, we may call it early just to give our families that notice that maybe they can start their transportation and their travel sooner than soon be. But right now, if the confidence stays the way it is, I would think that we are already looking at moving events to Thursday. Because if I had to bet the farm, I wouldn't bet it that we were here on Friday. But I've looked like a fool once before. I will again in my predictions of snow days, and we'll go from there. I just wanted to warn you in case we call it early and it rains all day. I apologize in advance. So, and then the last thing I want to do, we have a plaque here. Can you believe that somebody's been a board member for 20 years? So we have a beautiful plaque for Gina for 20 years.
Oh, boy.
There you go.
Well, thank you.
You didn't know it was coming. We didn't put it on the agenda to surprise you. So there you go. You can put it. I could have wrapped it up and gave it to you as a Christmas
Fancy.
gift, but
Yeah,
20 years of doing this. Thank you.
yeah.
You're crazier than I am.
Who knew? I was having this much fun.
But no, thank you for your leadership. Hopefully another 20 years more.
Oh. I have great grandkids in here.
Yeah, who knows?
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? Rini, is there something? Chuck's nodding.
Sure.
All those in favor, please say aye.
I